So obviously we've all had trials and tribulations. And in the Bible, there's a man, has a book named after him, Nehemiah. We're going to be in Nehemiah. Now, we're going to be jumping around to different chapters. I kind of favor the systematic going down through the scriptures of each verse, and so we're going to look at Nehemiah. We're going to start in chapter 1. Nehemiah chapter 1. The Bible says, the words of Nehemiah the son, oh boy, I might butcher some of these words, so just hang on with me. The son of Hashaliah, and it came to pass in the month Shusil, in the 12th year, it was in Shushan, the palace. So, breaking down that first verse, the month of Shusiliu, oh boy, we'll go with whatever it looks like to you. In that month, that actually is the month prior, so that would be April, what is it, we're in May, so it's March, April, between that time period. It's 30 days. And it was in Shushan, the palace. Now, in Shushan is in modern-day Iran. So Nehemiah, we find his occupation is the cupbearer for the king. That Hananiah, in verse 2, chapter 1, one of the brethren came, he and certain men of Judah, and I asked him concerning the Jews. Now, obviously, they don't have Facebook. They don't have Twitter. No Gmail yet, hasn't been founded. There's a chance that they might have had AOL, but that's a different story. But these people came up from this long journey, and like anything, you want to find out how are people, how is everybody. So I actually had a friend that came and visited about 2 years ago, and I was just like kind of inquiring, how is this person, how is this person? I'm really not on Facebook hardly at all. I'm only on there, have a couple photos, just so I could like share them with family, and then I'm off. Nothing ever good happens on Facebook, and so I don't even play around on that anymore. Well, this man, he's just like me, just like, hey, how is this person doing? How's this family doing? And hey, how are these people? And are these people still going to church? What's going on with this? And he's probably kind of inquiring, and he gets some very disturbing news. And they said unto me, the remnant that are left, the captivity in the province, are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. So Nehemiah gets some very disturbing news here in chapter 1. Very disturbing news. Nehemiah finds out that the walls are broken down. Now, we don't have city walls like they had. We have just a regular police force that, stops vehicles that are looking suspicious. Hey, what's going on? What are you doing here? It's not at all like in Nehemiah's time. You see, they needed a wall to stop these opposing armies from coming in, and really they would do kind of what we would consider like a smash and grab, just a real quick jump in there, kill a few people, grab everything, and run back out from another neighboring city. Now, these walls are broken down. There is no chance of stopping any army. A wall will also be a vantage point. There's no tower, there's nothing, so you can't even see far enough out. So there's no way of stopping any force from coming in and injuring people, from theft. Well, he gets this very disturbing news. Verse 4, and it came to pass when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Now, in this time period too, it was not uncommon. We kind of, when we're saying, hey, I'm praying to God, it doesn't really mean what it means when he says that he's fasting and praying. When we say that we're praying to God, I mean, it might be that we're driving and I'm thinking, oh, God, I really pray for this brother. He's really, I pray that this person would, get their life back. And, just kind of just thinking about prayer, and maybe walking around doing the dishes and praying. Maybe for me, I'll be working. I'm, using my screwdriver. I'm screwing in stuff and I'm thinking about something. I'm praying. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can tell there's a difference in his prayer. I sat down and wept and mourned. So it's really yearning on him. His heart is heavy. I don't know if you guys have ever been there before. I have. When your heart is just overwhelmed, you just feel like I almost just like, God, just either fix this or take my life. Just have that spot in your life where it's utter despair, like, God, just relieve me of this. I just feel like this is just overwhelming, like I can't even breathe. And he says he fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. So, in this time period as well, lots of times they would pray towards the direction of Jerusalem. And they would be on his knees, and he would be bowing down his face into the dirt, just praying before God. And he said, I beseeched, O Lord, the God of heaven, the great and terrible God, that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let thine ear be attentive, thine ears open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now day and night for the children of Israel, thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel. For we have sinned against thee, both I and my father's house have sinned. Well, if we look back, what was the sins that they were doing? The biggest and baddest sin is loving another God. Now, there are, I guess you would say, little g gods. Gods that have no actual authority. They're the god of, Balaam, the god of Ishtar, or as we would say in today, and we don't really have like little g gods today, but maybe, and now I might be stepping on some toes here, but maybe we have the God of Ford. You say, the God of Ford. Oh yeah, that God, that car that's up in the air, and oh, Brother Cecil, I just got some new overhead cams I'm going to be putting in there, and I can't come to church this Sunday. Oh, I got some blow-off valves that are going to be going in there. I got some cherry bombs. And any of you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, I got some manly stuff to put in this car. Oh, I got super slicks. I got this. I'm going to have fun. We have the God of Ford or Chevy or Dodge, whatever, pick your poison. We've got the God of the car. And maybe your God isn't that God. Maybe you got the God of, and this is where we might be stepping on toes, but maybe the God of shopping. My wife loves shopping. And she doesn't even have to buy anything. She just likes to go around and look, which is weird to me. Whenever I sees that, I'm like, oh, I'll take that. Oh, that sounds good. No, she's like, oh, I want to look at that one, and then I want to look at that one, and that one, and that. And she could spend all day just looking for purses, all day, and not even buy one. Didn't find one that I liked. That would be a bad shopping day for me. Oh, when I go out there, I know what I want. I'm like, I already figured it out. I want this exact tool. I don't want this one because this one, when you ratchet it, this ratchet, it's got not enough teeth in there. When you pop that ratchet back, it takes too long for it to hit another tooth. You got to be like click, 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 barely even move it. I want something like that. Oh, I know exactly what I want. And we all have certain little g gods. And what was happening was in Israel's time, they were serving these little g gods. Now, it's not something silly like we say, like, the God of the sports, the God of the TV, the God of the gaming world, the God of the Ford, but they were actually putting other gods before God. They were serving these idols. They were participating in the groves, which was really, it was fornication. These idols that they were worshiping would be really similar to really us claiming to be Christians and logging on to places that we shouldn't be logging on to. Watching things that we shouldn't be watching, and they were literally bowing down and worshiping these idols that they had set up. And God says, you know what, this is enough. And He took them away. So this remnant is gone. They're out. And Nehemiah says, I'm confessing these sins, God. God, this is what we've done. And he's naming it. And I can imagine he's naming this. We've done this, 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 and just listing them off, and all of them to God. And I can imagine he's not holding back any punches. This is what I have done. This is what my father and my mother have done. This is what all of my family has done. This is what Israel has done. And God, we deserve this. But we're asking for your mercy. Who here has ever asked for mercy? My hand is up. I can tell you personally, from my own father, I've asked for mercy. Where it's not popular nowadays to get a whooping. That's not popular. That's not good. You're not allowed to talk about that. But there was times I remember begging for mercy. Where the sin that I had done, there was going to be punishment for that sin. And I can remember thinking, I really don't want this. And I remember my dad would have the same thing. He would ask me, what did I need? And as a kid, you know what he's looking for. You know the answer. I need to get a spanking. That was the answer. But now what am I going to say? Oh, I know what to say. I'm going to trick my dad. What do I need? I think I need to do the dishes for a solid week. Take over the dishes for Mom. My dad's response, well, that sounds like a really good thing. What else do you think you need? I think I need to vacuum all the floors in the house for a solid week. That's really nice. What else do you think you need? And I start thinking of all these things, all these chores that I didn't like doing that I could do. And so, I could, because we just had gotten like all these, it wasn't real hardwood. It was, that peel and, stick kind of hardwood, the fake stuff. I could sweep the floors. We had dogs. Dogs like to shed. And these dogs shedded a whole bunch. I could sweep the floors every day. That sounds nice. What else do you think you need? We're in Washington. It's cold out there. Mornings are very, very cold. So we had all this firewood chopped up. I could bring the firewood in. I could stack up. That's really nice. What else do you think you need? Sometimes we're trying to appease God. Oh, God, we're begging you for mercy, God. Well, I understand you want mercy, but what do you think you need? Sometimes we don't want that chastisement from God. We don't want that chastisement from God. But what do we need? Well, Nehemiah, he's begging for God. He's begging God for the children of Israel. Now, in verse 11, O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to thy prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of the servants who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant this day, grant him mercy in the sight of this man for I was the king's cupbearer. He's already praying, God, that king. You can change the heart of that king. God, you can use me. God, do something. And it came to pass in chapter 2, verse 1, in the month Nisan, in the 12th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. Now this is very important here. He is the cupbearer. He is in the presence of the king. The king has talked with him on multiple occasions. As the cupbearer, he is there to taste test the food. There is no job higher than the cupbearer. They don't give that to just anybody. That is a very, very good job. Well, yeah, there's a downside. If you get poisoned, guess what happens? You drop dead. But you get to at least save the king. But there is a chance that there might be somebody that wants to kill that king. Now, who are they going to possibly try to bribe? Who are they going to try to get into the pockets of? Nehemiah, if you skip this food, just don't eat these cherries. Just don't eat these strawberries. Just don't drink from this cup. Maybe take a little sip, but don't actually drink it. Just be careful because there's poison in there. They can do anything they want. There was actually in you can look this up, it's actually documented. War is weird. War is weird. They do weird things in war. There's all kinds of different things. They actually had, it's a true story, the intelligence agencies wanted to obviously kill Hitler. But what they thought, since they didn't think they could kill Hitler, one thing they thought they could do is they could make him less manly. This is a true story. What they decided they wanted to do, and I don't know who thought of this, but they thought if we create these pheromones, we could create the possibility of reversing his genetic code, so to speak, and he would lose his mustache and he would lose his manliness and his voice would increase, it get higher, and he would sound more like a woman. And so they had these pheromones, and they wanted his gardener to spray them on the vegetables that the Führer was going to be consuming. Because they thought that it might just... And they paid so much money to this gardener to just have him sabotage the vegetables that the Führer would be eating. Just so that way, hopefully it'll work, and the Führer would lose his mustache, and it would have an increased voice, higher pitch, and sound more like a woman. That's all they were wanting. Of course, the gardener is like, accepted. Okay, yeah, I'll gladly. Took the vial, pocketed the money, just disposed the vial, didn't even put it in the vegetables. Kept the money. That could have happened to Nehemiah. Nehemiah just looked the other way. But no, Nehemiah's not. He's been with him for so many years. He's trusted this guy, this king. This king is trusting Nehemiah. And then one day he decides to be sad. The king notices. That's not like him. There was one man that I was working a job. He actually lived. I was a custodian with my wife. He lived at this location. It was a high-rise in Vegas. And he was a regular. We would see him every morning. And he was one of those, the older guy shuffle. You know what it is, where they don't take long strides. They kind of walk like this. How's it going? Everywhere they go. One of those type of people. But he was the coolest guy ever. Loved to chat with him. I don't even remember his name. I just remember his phrase. Every time you would say, how are you doing today? Super fantastic. Everything, even his bad, you could see he was in more pain. He was taking slower steps. How are you doing? Oh, super fantastic. Every day, super fantastic. And I can imagine, even you can see him on his bad days, that he had where his back was hurting, his legs were hurting, maybe his joints were hurting even more. I'm super fantastic. Every day, super fantastic. And I can imagine that was Nehemiah. But the one day, something looks off on Nehemiah. He looks a little sadder than I've seen him before. And the king inquires of that, Nehemiah, you look sad. Therefore the king said unto me, thy countenance is sad, that seeing thou art not sick. Is there something but sorrow in thy heart? Then I was very sore afraid. And I said, O king, live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, where the city, the place of my father's sepulchre, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? And the king said unto me, for what dost thou make request? Hey, what do you want to get? What did you want? And that's an open invitation. So really quickly, he's praying right there, God. So I prayed to the God of heaven, God, please help me. And he says to the king, if I found favor in thy sight, thou wouldst send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchre, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, for how long shall thy journey be? And so I tell him, about the amount of time is essentially what it's saying. And so he gives me he gives me leave. Go ahead and go. And the Bible even says, I even ask, hey, could I have a little bit of money? The king gave money. He has God's blessing on his life. Sometimes when you are begging God for deliverance, for something that's really weighing on you, God can just provide. Literally like God just opened up the gates of heaven and spilled out a blessing. But just realize that the moment that God blesses you, immediately there is a target on you. There's a game that I have been known to play a few times. It's something I kind of de-stress, I relax on. And in this game, there's actual real players. You're battling actual people at the same time. They're all logged in and they're all playing at the same exact time. And I know you're like, games, come on, Brother Jason. No, but it's just something fun I enjoy. But there's a truth in this right here. You see what happens in one part in this game, maybe about 3 or 4 times in this game, there's getting less and less people because they're running around shooting at each other. So this match that's being played, there's a plane that comes flying through the game. And you hear the plane. And you're looking up, where's this plane at? And then there it is right above you. And then all of a sudden, out plops a parachute. Now that's something special. Now let me tell you, that's something very special. That's something like the very best gun you can get in this game. That's something like the very best, helmet, the very best armor. And you know what everybody in this game does when they hear that plane? They automatically all look. Everybody is looking. Now there are 2 sets of people in this game. Actually, really 3. There's the first set that says, I don't want anything to do with that blessing that's coming. Now you say, why? Because they have been either the second or the third participant that got slaughtered. You see, the second person decides, I really want that blessing. And so they're trying to make their way towards that parachute that's coming down and about ready to land. And there's a third person. And this third person usually has their rifle honed in on that box that's coming down. And when that box finally lands and people are running to it, you know what they're doing? They've got their sniper rifle. They've got their scope in, and they're waiting for that person to come get that blessing. Why? Because that's just one more person I can take out. You know, when that blessing's coming down and, God, you can see God's blessing, God's hand, you know somebody else is seeing that blessing too? And it's the devil himself. And that devil, he's like, oh, you think you're special? I've got a little something for you. I'm going to load this rifle and I'm going to shoot off a little dart at you. I'm not very happy with you relying on God. So this first bullet, this first dart that we see at Nehemiah, chapter 2, if you want to pull forward to about verse 19. But when Sanballat, the Horonite, and Tobiah, the servant, the Amorite, the Geshem, the Arabian, heard it, they laughed us to scorn and despised us, and said, what is this thing that ye do? Will ye rebel against the king? Then answered I them, and said unto them, the God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. But ye have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. So the moment that blessing came down and they started building, immediately there was a little bit of persecution. Who's ever been laughed at? Oh, I think we all have. In school, kids make up just nonsense to make fun of somebody. And the thing that just cut me to the core? It was the hardest thing to be accused of in school. You know those penny loafer shoes? Remember those? You would stick a penny in the front of them. Remember those things? My nickname in school, because my name's Jason, so they really thought of this one really good. They nicknamed me J.C. Penny. Oh, yeah. Oh, just hurt me. I was like, that's awful. Yeah. Mr. J.C. Penny. Now, there he is, folks. Oh, and then I'd walk through school, and I'd be so embarrassed. Everybody laughing. Mr. J.C. Penny. I mean, really? That's all. But, oh, man, that hurts. As a kid, especially, that was really hurtful. Oh, Mr. J.C. Penny, I can't stand this. Why did they name me just Mr. J.C. Penny? Why couldn't it have been named like something cooler, like Mr. Levi Stratus? Or something else. Why this? We all have those, I guess you'd say little horror stories when we were growing up of being mocked and ridiculed in school, made fun of. And these people, they're just trying anything they can do to belittle, to hinder the work. In verse 19, they're going up that when they heard about it, when they saw probably, when people started, hey, guess what? Did you hear what's happened? They're actually starting to build. They laughed us to scorn. They despised us. They're making fun. They're poking jokes. What are these people thinking? I mean, really? What are they thinking? A fox is going to run up and going to kick down that wall. They're just making fun. Well, chapter 3, in verse 5, more persecution comes. And next unto them, the Tekoites repaired, but their nobles put not their necks to the work of their Lord. One moment, it's just these people, these ungodly people, but then, it's the godly. It's God's people, and they're nobles, just like, I'm too important to work. I've met those type of people before. I'm too important to do God's work. Did you see these hands? They've got no calluses on them. I can't bear to do work. There are people like that. You're gonna have people that are not saved, that don't believe in God, that are going to tear you down. But then you're going to have even people that do believe in God, not believe in God enough to join in on the work. Chapter 4, verse 1. And it came to pass when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall, he was now something different, wroth, and took great indignation and mocked the Jews. So beforehand, it was all funny. Yeah, what are these guys going to do? Really? Yeah, Mr. J.C. Penney over here. But now, something's a little bit different. Now he's angry. He's wroth. Quite frankly, the reason why I think he was wroth is, quite frankly, I really do believe, the Bible doesn't say it specifically, but I do believe that Sanballat was probably part of that raiding party that constantly was coming across. So now he's wroth. Why was he wroth? I personally believe is because he was lining his pockets with all the hard work that they were doing. Going out there to sow in the field, and you would glean this harvest, and you get all this corn, and then Sanballat comes in, and he doesn't take all of your stuff. He takes probably half of it. This is mine. I'm going to let you live. And then he leaves with half of the corn. And man, Sanballat's life was just probably wonderful. Everything was just great because he's living off of the hard work of others. So now he's upset. Why is he upset? This means that either A, I got to go to fight with them to knock down that wall, or B, I have to actually work. That's tough. Now I've actually got to do work when all of these Jewish people were doing the work for me. This is just horrible. So in verse 1, when Sanballat heard it, he was wroth. He took great indignation and mocked the Jews. So indignation, essentially, like he's feeling like, how dare they do that to me? It was basically like they built that wall just because they knew that I wouldn't want it built. How dare they? That's essentially what mindset Sanballat is right now. And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria. So now you see right there, that's an issue. Now he's going to the army and telling them about it, and word is getting to Nehemiah. Hey, he even spoke to the army. I can imagine this is getting a little bit worrisome. The army. He's starting to get them to get all mad. Yeah, guys, guess what's happening? Now when we go over there, now we're going to have to actually deal with the wall. Aren't you guys upset? Yeah, I'm upset. Some people are probably thinking, we should go over there and kill him right now. And now word starts getting to Nehemiah. There's something to be worried about. And it came to pass, in verse chapter 4, verse 7, but it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabian and the Amorites and the Ajacites heard the wall of Jerusalem were made up, and that the breaches began to be stopped, that they were very wroth. In verse 8, and they conspired all of them together to come to fight against Israel and to hinder it. So we see another issue. It just gets more and more dangerous for Nehemiah. Now it's not just making fun. Oh, look at you. You're so pathetic. Oh, you're just puny. Oh, look at that stupid thing you're doing. Look at what you're doing for Jesus. That is pathetic. That is horrible. How dare you? And then it gets even worse too. You doing that just to make me upset? How dare you do that to me? Don't you realize what kind of person I am? To advancing it to, let's all go over there and teach them a lesson. You know, I was involved in school fights growing up. And it wasn't because I was an aggressor and I would just like to beat up people. I really didn't. I did not like seeing people taken advantage of, and I would stand up when there was a fight. I didn't like it. I didn't like people being taken advantage of. I didn't like people being bullied. And I've seen where this has happened, where they start a fight. You know, usually the people that start the fight are not the ones that want to fight. You ever notice that? You know the popular kid, the bully of the crowd? He's the one that stokes the fire. I actually seen this one kid that was named Jesse growing up. He was the one that was stoking the fire. He was not strong. He was not great at martial arts. He didn't have ninja skills. But you know what he was? He was popular. He was the in crowd. And so he would get other people to come fight for him. And this person right here is the in crowd. He is the popular one. We should all go fight. Now he's not meaning I'm going to be in the front of that fight. I'm going to be back there supervising you guys fighting. And whoever fights the best is going to be my best friend. That's the kind of guy this guy is. So Sanballat was mad that all these holes were fixed. So we know Sanballat knows where these holes are. Sanballat has been jumping over this wall time and time again, cleaning up all of Israel's hard work. Now in verse 8 and 9 of chapter 4, we see Sanballat is starting to conspire of war. And in verse 10, this is where it starts to get really serious. See, Judah said, the strength of the bearers of the burdens is decayed. There is much rubbish, so that we're not able to build the wall. And our adversaries say, they shall not know, neither see till we come in the midst and slay them and cause the work to cease. So, man, they've got to clean up. Man, we got more work to do. In verse 12, and it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said unto us 10 times, for all places whence we shall return unto us, they will be upon you. But now, this is very important. I need you to look at that verse right here. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came 10 times. Now that's something else all by itself. Even, and I put that quotation, God's people. You know, even God's people will sometimes work for the enemy. Even God's people will try to bring you down. Will try to push you down. People that profess to be Christians. Oh, I believe in God. Oh, I do. You know, do you really? They completely are different than what they say they are. God's people. You know, now we started off just with mockery. Now we're dealing with people that are not just mocking, they're threatening. And then on top of that, now they're saying, hey, we're going to go to fight you. But then when they decide not to fight, then they get God's people 10 times to go ahead and dissuade them, to stop them from fighting, or to stop them from building that wall. Well, we see in chapter 6, the last part, and we are done. And it came to pass when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Geshem and the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I had builded the wall and that there was no breach left therein, though at the time I had not set upon the doors, upon the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plains of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. Those doors are the only thing that stop the enemy. I mean, these walls are all the way up. We've got people every night looking and making sure that Sanballat and Tobiah aren't bringing in those armies. They're up on the rooftop. They're watching every night. People, when they're building, they really will have a trowel in one hand and a sword in the other. They are ready at any moment to fight. That's how serious it's getting. But this wall is gone up, and the doors are the only thing that stop the enemy. So I bet you the enemy's going to give up. Oh no. No, that enemy's not giving up. He is going to fight with every being that he has. Chapter 6, verse 2 says that enemy was even trying to get them to get away from the work site. Now, I've been in work sites quite a few times. Brother Mark, I'm pretty sure you've been at a couple work sites in your lifetime. Maybe once or twice. Yeah. Being a foreman, you've probably worked a couple of times and seen building projects go up. Now, I'm pretty sure, Brother Mark, with an exception of maybe once or twice, have you had an actual office? Yes. You know, Brother Mark and I haven't talked before this message came, but I've worked in enough construction sites that usually when you get bigger ones, you usually have an office. Now, the cool thing I love about offices, I like to go into the office. You know why? Usually the bosses have a box of donuts in there and coffee. It's wonderful. And my favorite are those jelly-filled raspberry ones. So next time I'm at your little office place, you know to make sure to get those stocked up. But now, this man knows it's a construction site. At any moment, Sanballat could say, hey, I need to talk to you about this construction. Is it up to code, Brother Mark? You know, Brother Mark, is this thing up to code? Can it withstand the winds that we're going to have? Is there a firm foundation, or did you just build it on top of caliche? I need to know these things. You know, how about this? I need you to talk to me. You know, Brother Mark, I know that this construction site is at the corner of Lake Mead and Lamb. Okay? I know that it's really close to us, but my place, my house is a little bit further over. Let's go ahead and meet at Simmons and MLK. All right? You know, maybe not right now, but maybe about 2 hours from now. Simmons and MLK, Brother Mark. Brother Mark is busy. I mean, he's got tractors there. He's got bulldozers. He's got people working round the clock. And I need you to be over at Lake Mead and MLK to talk about the construction site. Does that make any sense? No, if I'm a city official, if I'm somebody important, where am I going to be going? I'm going to be going right there to that construction site. These guys are not stupid. They want to get him away from where there's protection. They want to get the man of God away from where God wants him. God wants him working on that project, working there. But hey, come on over here. Hey, we've got donuts. You know, we've got coffee. Hey, come on over here. And they're going to try to pull him away one last time. But he knows they thought to do me mischief. They're going to try to kill me. Sanballat is going to be forever etched in history as working the deeds of the devil. You see, the devil doesn't want those walls to be built up. The devil doesn't want protection for God's people. The devil wants to take. He wants to destroy. He wants to hurt. And Nehemiah is privy to that. In chapter 7, verse 1, we see there's an accomplishment. You see, Sanballat and Tobiah, they didn't get under Nehemiah. They weren't able to pull him away. No matter what they did, no matter sending the letters to the king and trying to conspire against Nehemiah, nothing could dissuade Nehemiah. And in verse 1, we see that the wall was finished. He sets the doors, and the porters and the singers and the Levites were appointed. There was a celebration. You see, God used one man. Now, I can imagine that there was all of God's people praying, but God listened to one man. The Bible doesn't say that God heard Nehemiah's prayer and all the others. It was Nehemiah. Now, I got to ask you, we don't have walls that we need to build up around this church property, but maybe there's walls around us that we need to build, figurative walls. Maybe it's time for us to go ahead and lay down those bricks and say, you know what, devil, you are not coming in. It's time for us as Christians to say, God, this is yours. What does those walls protect? It protects God's people, and it protects the temple. You know, though that temple had to be protected, that temple was going to be built too. And we look in that Bible, we find out that the temple got built as well. What do we need? We need these walls up in our Christian life. You know, the people like to, say nowadays, oh, don't build walls, build bridges. Chapter and verse. Once in a while, you need a wall. You need to stop the enemy before they get in. Sanballat and Tobiah are the enemy. And they're trying to come in. And they're not trying to come in to spend time around God's word. They're trying to come in like the devil and sift them like wheat. Today I got a challenge. Are you willing to build a wall? Are you willing to say, God, I'm going to protect myself from the enemy? God, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. I am going to see persecution. But God, I invite you to use me. I invite you into my life. And you know what, God? I am going to fight for you. I'm going to witness to others. I'm going to tell others about your love. I'm going to build that wall. You know, Nehemiah did God's work, and we've gone through 7 chapters rather quickly, but we saw time and time and time again, chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where the devil tried to dissuade them. Today I challenge you as Christians. Are you going to let God rule your life? Are you going to let the Lord, the big G God, rule your life? Or are you going to, like Israel did in many times invite the little g, God, to control your life. The choice is yours. Let's go and pray. Dear God, thank you so much, Lord, for your message, Lord, about Lord Nehemiah just trusting you with his life. God, I pray, Lord, that your people, Lord, would give you their lives, Lord. Lord, that they would take the control, Lord, and give it to you completely. Lord, I pray that, Lord, we will guide our hearts. Lord, that we'll protect ourselves. Lord, that we will give ourselves to you. And Lord, that we will not let the devil take anything. Lord, I pray that we would give our lives completely, solely to you, Lord, in this church. Lord, because then, like with Israel, then, Lord, you can do a great work. Lord, I pray that we'll give you our lives. Lord, I pray that right now, as there's others that are making their way in, Lord, to the service, God, that you give them safe travels and we'll be able to worship together for the main service. Lord, that you give Pastor the words to speak this main service. For it's your name we ask it all. Amen.